Hello students, today we're going to look at solving quadratics by completing the square. This is going to be kind of part one in which we get rational answers. So, quick review from the previous lesson is that to look at what is the value of c such that the following will be a perfect square trinomial. So we've done factoring, we've done a lot of things here. So for 6, you can take half of whatever b is and then square it. So half of 6 is 3. 3 squared is 9 for this first one. For the second one, b, so here I'll label b here. b on this one is negative 10. So we take half of that as negative 5. Negative 5 times negative 5, we get a 25 that would fill in the blank there. And then this one, b is 20. So if b is 20, we would take half of that, which is 10. 10 squared is 100. So that would make those a perfect square trinomial, which, for instance, this one would turn into x plus 3 squared. This one would be x minus 5 squared. And this one would be f plus 10 squared. So that is what makes them perfect square trinomials. All right, so next we're going to look at when to use solving quadratics by completing the square. When is it the best time to use this technique? So first of all, first main thing is that we want to use it when a is equal to 1. So you'll notice on all three of these examples up here, a was 1. There's nothing out front of the x squared or the variable squared. It's just a 1 right there. All right. It also works best when b is even. Okay. This is going to be because a lot of times we're going to take half of b, and then, well, not a lot of times, every time you're going to take b, find half of it, and then square it. So if b is odd, so I do want to make a note that it can be odd. However, when it is odd, you will have to deal with either a fraction or a decimal whenever you're multiplying, and that can get a little more dicey. So if b is even, that is optimal. That's our best bet. All right, so now looking at our steps, we've got several steps here that go with solving a quadratic equation by completing the square. So the first step, step 1, is going to be to move c to the opposite side if necessary. So if a, b, and c are all on the same side, which we typically would see, if we have ax squared plus bx plus c equal to 0, for completing the square, we'd actually need to move this over. So we would have to subtract c, or depending on what its sign is. So we want it in the form ax squared plus bx is equal to the opposite of whatever that turns out to be. So this is what we're looking for to fill in the blanks here and over here. All right, so if we move c to the opposite side, I'll put if necessary. Okay, step 2, once we have it in this form, we want to find the b value. So we're gonna pull out the b value. Sorry, not values, just the b value. Okay, and capital B, lowercase b, sorry, they represent the same thing. All right, once we find the b value, we're going to take half of that. So 1/2 of b. All right, once we've taken half of b, all right, we are going to square the 1/2 b, the 1/2 b value. Okay, so this is several steps here, obviously, as we get going. But the main thing is we want to get it in this form where we move this over, move the c over, so it becomes not c over here. We want a and b on the same side. Find b, take half, and then square it. Those are our main things we're going to do. Once we find this value, we're going to add that to both sides. Okay, so add the squared value to both sides. Sorry, we got a little bit of writing here to fit that one in. All right, add the squared value to both sides. Right? Okay, once we've done that, we can get the perfect square on the quadratic side and simplify the constants on the other side. So that means whatever, these will be like terms on the right. We're just adding numbers over here or combining them. This side will now turn into a perfect square trinomial. So it should be, in this case, if it's plus, is x plus something squared. All right, so we're essentially factoring perfect square on the quadratic side. So the quadratic side is the side with the x squared. Okay, and then simplify the other side. Okay, so that's step 6. We got 2 more here. So step 7, we're going to use radicals. We're going to use radicals to simplify or to try to get rid of this squared. So you're going to end up with taking a square root of both sides over here. Okay, and then solve and simplify using steps we've done in the past. So solve, so I'm getting down here at the end, and simplify, okay, to get our solutions. For solutions. All right, so I know that's a lot to write down, so pause that if needed. This part you're going to see here in example, or see in the examples here in just a second, but all of these steps, you can always come back to this if you get stuck. So there are the steps. You've had a chance to pause if needed. Just a reminder again, we only use this when A is 1 and B is typically even. We can do it with the odds, but that gets a little bit more dicey. All right, so let's go ahead and do an example. For this one, B is 4. So we're going to take 4. We're going to take half of 4. So the first one, B is 4, right? Half of 4 is going to equal 2. And then 2 squared is going to be 4. Now, it just so happens that B being 4, that's the only one where you actually get back to the same. So we left some space here. I like to put fill in the blanks. You don't have to do that. But we're going to add 4 on this side, and we're going to add 4 on the right side. So that is, we pull out the B value, take half, we square it, then we add it to both sides. So that is the complete the square part. Now the factor, what factors of 4 combined to 4, it should always be the second one. So it's going to be x plus 2 squared, because if you think about, if we go back to factoring, what factors of 4 combined to 4, it would be 2 and 2. So there's 2 of them right here. Okay, equal to 9. So this is where we use radicals. We're going to take the square root of both sides. We get x plus 2 is equal to plus and minus 3. And then from here on out, we're solving like we did in a previous lesson. We're going to subtract 2. We get x is equal to, that's a positive 3 minus 2, or we would have a negative 3 minus 2, so we get 1 or negative 5. Whoops, negative 5 on that solution. Let me rewrite that. We'll write it over here. 1 or negative 5. Okay, so apologies for the misprint there. But anyways, 1 or negative 5 is what we get for that first one. Okay, let's go to this one. So here we go. B is negative 10. Now be careful. This is the first one we've had with a negative. Half of negative 10, we're going to get negative 5. And then using parentheses, on your calculator, if you just type, you want to do parentheses negative 5, because it should be negative times a negative for a positive 25. So you'll note, anytime we add something to both sides in these completing the square questions, because this is squared, it should always be that you add a number. In this case, you're adding 25 to both sides. Okay, so that's where we're at there. Then factors of 25 that combine to negative 10 should always be the second one. It's going to be y minus 5 squared is equal to 49. To undo the square, we're going to take the radical of both sides. We get y minus 5 is equal to plus and minus 7. We add 5 to both sides, and we should get y equals 7 plus 5 would be 12, or negative 7 plus 5 would be negative 2. So the two answers come from the plus and minus there. So pause if you need to catch up on any of those. All right, let's go to the next two. So this one is actually the first step. So in the first step from the first page, we said to add C or move C first. So this is a case where we want C or everything. We only want A to be 1, and we want B on the same side, but this needs to move over. So we're going to add 84 to both sides. Okay, because we need it to be x squared plus 8x. Then we kind of leave a blank space because that's what we're going to fill in, equals 84 with a fill in the blank there. So now we start. B is 8. Okay, we're going to take half. Half of 8 is 4. And then 4 squared, we're going to get 16. So there's my information. I'm going to add 16 to both sides, and now we're back to doing just the same steps as before. So what's different about this one is that we had to add the 84 first. We want to move everything over except for A and B. The C needs to move over. So then, factors of 16 that combine 8. Like I said, it should always be this second one if you write these out. X plus 4 squared is equal to 100. We're going to take the square root of both sides. We get x plus 4 is equal to plus and minus 10. We subtract 4. We're using our solve by square roots. Positive 10 minus 4 is 6. Negative 10 minus 4 is negative 14. So there's what we get for part F. Okay, so 16, or part G is going to be more of the same. We're going to add 57 to start with. So you always want to make sure that you check for that first. So C squared minus 16C, leave a space, equals 57. We're going to fill in the blank over there. You don't have to write the fill in the blanks, certainly if you don't want to. So C in this case is negative 16. Now be careful with the signs. When it's negative, when you take half of it, you have to keep that negative sign there if you're planning to use this for the factor. So then negative 8 squared, again, on your calculator, make sure if you put negative 8 squared like this, that's going to be wrong. Make sure you use the parentheses to get what turns out to be a positive answer. This one will tell you a negative 64, which we know a negative times negative is a positive. All right, so we add the 64 to both sides. When we do that, factors of 64 that combine to 16. Again, it should always be this one. C minus 8 times C minus 8 means C minus 8 squared. 57 and 64, we're going to get 121. So now we've got everything set up. We completed the square there. We got the factors. Now we can solve with radicals. So we get C minus 8 is equal to, 121 is a perfect square, so plus and minus 11. We're going to add 8 to both sides. We get C is equal to 11 plus 8 is 19. Negative 11 plus 8 is negative 3. So there are those two. So those are a little more complicated just because you had to move the C value off the start. Move that so that we can set this up for completing the square. All right, so pause if you need there. All right, the last two here for this one, B is an odd number, but it is set up where we have spaces here. We already got C moved over. So B is 5. All right, so we're going to take half of B. So 1/2 times 5 is going to be 5 over 2. Now you could do this with decimals and use your calculator. I'm going to show it with fractions here. So then I take 5 over 2 squared. That's going to be 25 over 4. Okay, so this looks a little intimidating at start, but plus 25 over 4. But just stay with it. 25 over 4. And you can use your calculator to help you out here. When we do that, now again, what I had showed you, because of this, we don't have to really think about factoring that. We can just use this to set it up. So it's going to be x plus 5 over 2 squared. All right, so this is actually super helpful, just like what we did there where the 4 moved in or the negative 8 moved in. So we don't have to hopefully think about factoring it. And then on this side, I'm going to go ahead and change the 6 to fourths. So 6 times 4, so 6, essentially this would come out here and be 24 fourths plus 25 fourths. So with common denominators, we get 49 fourths, which if you're thinking about this, that's actually good because now when we go and take the radical to both sides, we get x plus 5 over 2 is equal to plus and minus. The square root of 49 is 7. The square root of 4 is 2. And now we actually have common denominators here. We're going to subtract 5 over 2. So we get our final answers here of positive 7 halves. So positive 7 minus 5, we get 2 over 2. Or negative 7 minus 5 would be negative 12 over 2. So my actual final answers will simplify into 1 or negative 6. So there you go. That's how we could do that. So B is odd, as you see here, makes things a little bit more complicated. So that's why if B is odd, we might choose a different method to solve that one. All right, last one. Here we go. We need to move C over. So we subtract 61. We've got n, sorry my fingers are over that if you need to pause, n squared minus 14n is equal to negative 61. I'm leaving a space here and here. B is negative 14, so half of negative 14, negative 7, and then negative 7 squared. Make sure, again, reminder on the calculator, we get a positive 49. So we add 49 to both sides to get this set up. I know it looks like I'm running out of room, but we get n minus 7 squared is equal to a negative 12. And so we go to do our radicals. We cannot take the square root of a negative, so this turns out to be no real solution. NRS down there. Okay, excuse me. So there are the last two. Feel free to pause there if you need to catch up. If you have questions, please reach out via Canvas or ask us in class. We appreciate your time and effort, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks.